him goodnight. Like she had some kind of a sense. I think she had a sense many times that he wasn't okay, you know? She would tell me that sometimes she would find him in his bathroom looking kind of out of it or holding on to him. And she also wrote these letters when she was little that we have kind of saying, I hope my daddy doesn't die. So there was some kind of...
What if the king's most closely guarded secrets finally open their doors? For more than 40 years, the second floor of Graceland, Elvis's legendary home, has been a sealed time capsule, a forbidden room no fan has ever seen. And now, in the latest and most explosive reveal, Elvis's own granddaughter, Riley Keough, steps out of the shadows to expose the hidden rooms, the sealed letters, the unheard recordings, and the raw emotional truths that have kept the world guessing for decades. In this video, we're diving into the untold story of the tunnel beneath the house, the music Elvis never released, and the room that remains exactly as he left it the day he died. Get ready for the most intimate, jaw-dropping glimpse into the king's life, because for the first time, the secrets are finally out, and the truth is nothing short of astounding. The second floor of Graceland has been a sealed whisper for more than 40 years. A room of silence where the echoes of a life lived in front of the world still linger. For decades, fans, scholars, and curious visitors have stared at the polished front doors, the wide hallway, and the gleaming staircase that leads up, only to be met with a locked door and an unspoken promise of secrecy. But now, from the inside, a new voice speaks, a voice that is not just that of a biographer or a curator, but that of a granddaughter who has lived her life in the shadow of a legend. Riley Keough, the granddaughter of Elvis Presley and the current steward of the estate, is finally opening the conversation about the upstairs rooms that have been forbidden to all but the closest family and staff. When Riley speaks, she does not merely recount facts, she brings to life the spaces that are so much more than physical rooms. She recalls the feeling of the cold stone floor under her feet when she first stepped up the staircase as a child, the way the air smelled of the old unused cedar that had once carried the scent of Elvis's aftershave. She remembers how, even in the presence of strangers, the family would pause in front of that door, eyes downcast, as if to honor the invisible walls that had been erected around their private sanctuary. What makes these rooms special is not just their untouched condition, it is the presence of artifacts that are as intimate as they are revealing. Riley describes a small study that had become a quiet sanctum for the King of Rock. The room was dim, the light filtered through heavy drapes, and the walls were lined with books that spanned from Christian theology to numerology to Eastern mysticism. On the desk, scattered between neat stacks of vinyl and sheet music, were handwritten notebooks, their pages filled with the king's musings on fame, faith, and the weight of the world's expectations. Riley recalls a page where Elvis, in a state of reflective calm, had written the word free over and over, a mantra perhaps that resonated with his desire for liberation from the relentless spotlight. Other items were less spiritual and more personal. The king's bed, still adorned with its original silk sheets, sat beneath a heavy curtain that had never been pulled. Two nightstands framed the bed, one holding a Bible, the other a small stack of medication bottles, some of which still bore the faint imprint of Elvis's own name. Tucked beneath the mattress, a shoebox labeled "Do Not Open," which Riley says was a quiet, almost tragic, secret she chose not to disturb. Inside, unsent letters, one addressed to her mother, Lisa Marie, and another that read simply, "To whoever finds this after I'm gone." Riley's decision to keep these items private is a testament to the emotional depth they carry, a private confession of a man who had lived his entire public life in a spotlight that never dimmed. Riley also speaks of the bathroom where Elvis met his final breath. She is careful to respect the sanctity of that space, but she confirms that everything remains as it was on the day of his death. No new towels, no modern fixtures. It is a room that has been frozen in time, a place where the final moments of a global icon are locked within its walls. Riley's refusal to speak in detail about the room, out of respect for her grandfather's memory, underscores the profound reverence that still pervades the estate. Yet her insights into the upstairs rooms give us a new understanding of what they represent. More than a collection of artifacts, they are a window into the private world of a man who was, for all the world, larger than life. The family's decision to keep the second floor sealed dates back to the night of August 16, 1977, when paramedics arrived at the estate after the king's heart stopped. Vernon Presley, the father, reportedly insisted that the upstairs be locked, not as a publicity stunt, but as a private sanctuary. The rooms have never been cleaned out, restyled, or modernized. They remain exactly as they were that fateful day, a snapshot frozen in time that the family has guarded with reverence. Riley's role as the new owner and guardian of Graceland allows her to bring a fresh perspective. She recalls how, as a child, she would sneak past the locked door while the public walked through the lower halls, her cousins and her parents giving her a quiet, almost conspiratorial glance. In those moments, she could see the quiet that had been suppressed by fame, the silent rhythm of Elvis's private life. Beyond the physical objects, Riley's testimony offers us a broader context of the estate's evolution. Graceland, originally a modest colonial revival home built in 1939, was bought by Elvis in 1957 for $12,500, a purchase that was not about grandeur but about privacy. Elvis transformed the house over the next 2 decades into an extension of himself, loud, colorful, unpredictable, and deeply personal. The Jungle Room, with its green shag carpeting that ran up to the ceiling and its carved wooden furniture, became more than just a decor choice. It became a recording studio where Elvis laid down his final tracks, including the hauntingly beautiful Moody Blue. Behind the house, a meditation garden was created in 1964, a quiet, stone-lined space that later became the resting place of Elvis, his parents, grandmother, and daughter, Lisa Marie Presley. The garden offers a contrast to the frenzy that has surrounded the estate, a place of quiet, reflection, and homage. Graceland has welcomed over 20 million visitors since it opened to the public in 1982. It has become a pilgrimage site for fans across continents, a place where the collective admiration of a cultural icon is expressed in flowers, notes, and quiet reverence. Yet, even as the estate has been turned into a museum of Elvis's life and art, the upstairs remains an untouched mystery. Riley's revelations bring us one step closer to understanding the true depth of the king's private world. The rooms are not a mystery to cover. They are a testament to a life lived in public, yet deeply private. In revealing these details, Riley Keough invites the world to see Graceland not just as a museum, but as a living archive, a place where the past is preserved with the same care it once was given in the heart of a family that still feels the echo of a man who once sang to the world and whispered to his own inner sanctum. Her story, her memories, and her insights illuminate a side of Elvis that had remained hidden for generations, a side that reminds us that behind the myth and the music, there was a human being who sought solace in a room that has, until now, been closed off to all but the closest of kin. Elvis's upstairs has long been a cathedral of silence, its doors locked as if a mausoleum, its rooms untouched by time. The very hush that surrounds the sanctuary is a testament to a man who, in the glare of fame, carved out a private refuge. Riley Keough explains that the bedroom, the bathroom, and the quiet room were spaces where Elvis would retreat to read, meditate, or simply sit in silence, away from the relentless spotlight.
It was only her and her dad, so I think she got a lot of intimate time up there with him. No one else was up there.
The quiet room, a tiny alcove tucked at the far end of the hallway, has never appeared in the official Graceland brochures. It was a meditation space, dimly lit, cushions scattered on the floor, a soft hum from an old sound machine weaving through the air. It was a place where Elvis prayed, reflected, and sought peace amid a world that never seemed to stop looking. No photographs of that room survive, no fan accounts mention it. Riley's disclosure is the first, perhaps only, acknowledgement that it exists. She believes it represents one of the most honest parts of him, a man perpetually searching for solace. Why does she speak of it now? Riley shares that the upstairs stayed closed not for spectacle, but for necessity. Lisa Marie Presley, her mother, kept that part of the house sacrosanct, wary of the pain, the unresolved grief that lingered after Elvis's passing. With Lisa Marie's death, Riley stepped into a new role. Owner of Graceland, guardian of a legacy she feels is ready to be told, but not to be opened for public viewing. The rooms will stay closed, yet the stories will surface, offering fans an emotional connection rather than a physical one. She insists that some spaces are meant to stay personal, yet they do not have to remain shrouded in complete secrecy. The myth of a hidden tunnel beneath Graceland weaves into this tapestry of mystery. Some argue the estate contains a secret passage, a route that might have allowed Elvis to vanish quietly when the pressures became too great. Theories claim that beneath the meditation garden, a passage might extend to an unmarked exit behind the property, a private escape route for a man whose public presence had become a cage. Critics point out that official blueprints omit any mention of such a tunnel, and that the second floor, where the rooms lie, is absent from public maps. Yet former staffers have given cryptic nods, saying there are things even employees are not shown. The Presley family has never confirmed or denied a tunnel. Even in documentaries and memoirs, no mention arises, but the rumor lingers, fueled by Elvis's documented paranoia in the 1970s, bugs, microphones, withdrawal from public appearances, all pointing to a man planning an escape. The rumor feeds on sightings that have emerged over the years. In 1978, long after Elvis's death, photos surfaced of a man who some claimed was the king himself, walking past the Grace and Gase in a quiet suburban street. Fans debated whether it was a photo or a ghost, a myth made real by the lack of a photograph of Elvis in public during those months. Another case, in 1984, involved a blurry snapshot of a figure on a bench in a rural road, labeled as a king but with no clear identity. In 1984, a blurry image of a man on a roadside in a small town sparked a frenzy of online forums. These moments are not just footnotes, they became cultural touchstones for those yearning for a continuation of the King's saga. Each sighting, each blurry image, fills the void left by Elvis's final days. No public photographs, no televised appearances, only the sealed upstairs rooms. The autopsy and funeral proceedings have been publicly documented. Families verified the body, the autopsy was conducted, the funeral was a national event. Yet the silence that followed, months without a public image, no touring, no televised interview, has created a vacuum. Theories arise where facts do not reach the public. The misspelling of Elvis's middle name on the grave, Priscilla being Priscilla, a seemingly small error, has been dissected by scholars and fan communities. Some view it as a well-intentioned correction. Others argue it signifies a deeper intentional alteration, a clue pointing toward a larger narrative. Without DNA proof or any forensic evidence that Elvis survived beyond 1977, skeptics dismiss sightings as mistaken identities or hoaxes, but the vacuum left by silence invites speculation. Riley Keough does not need to confront every rumor. She understands that mystery is part of Elvis's power. She repeatedly states her role is not to explain him, but to protect what mattered to him. The sealed rooms are a part of that protection. She offers the stories, the quiet room, the tunnel myth, the sightings, the death certificate oddity. The reality could be any of those possibilities. No tunnel at all, no extra heirs, a simple grief-filled family. Yet for a man who lived his life in front of the world, keeping a part of himself hidden was perhaps the most radical act of rebellion. The mystery is part of the legend thrives on it. In inheriting Grayson, Riley Keough stands on the threshold of a legacy that will continue to inspire new generations. Whether the tunnels exist or not, whether the sightings are fact or fabrication, she holds the responsibility of guarding the emotional core of the Presley name. Grayson remains not just a house, but a monument of cultural history, and its upstairs continues to guard a story that fans will forever search for. It is a place where the past and present collide, where the silence of Elvis's private refuge is a living narrative that invites wonder, preserves reverence, and fuels a myth that may never be fully unraveled. The world may never know the exact path Elvis took in his final days, but the stories he left behind, now revealed, will linger in the hearts of those who seek him, a testament to the enduring allure of the man who, once on stage, chose to keep a part of himself hidden for the greatest rebellion of all. The sealed rooms upstairs are a constant source of speculation. Riley Keough, who inherited the estate after Lisa Marie Presley's death in 2023, has confirmed that these rooms remain untouched. She described them as frozen in time. While she hasn't specifically mentioned music recordings, she has alluded to personal artifacts that have never been cataloged or shown publicly. She once told a private interviewer that the house feels like a living diary, each item holding a breath of his life, and that she senses a pulse beneath the dust. The story of the trust itself is as tangled as the vines that grow along the southern facade of Graceland. When Elvis died in 1977, the house passed to his only child, Lisa Marie. The estate was managed by a trust set up in 1975, before Elvis's death, to protect the property and the intellectual property tied to his name. In 2016, a crucial amendment altered the way the trust would be administered, giving Lisa Marie more control over the licensing of the Presley brand. Priscilla, Elvis's widow, contested that amendment, arguing that it bypassed the original intent of the trust. The dispute, settled out of court, revealed that the Presley legacy is not just a sentimental inheritance, it's a legal battlefield worth hundreds of millions. It is in this climate that the so-called secret heir theory gains traction. Over the decades, at least a dozen individuals have claimed to be the biological child of Elvis. Their stories range from a man who petitioned the court for an exhumation to obtain DNA evidence to an alleged daughter who submitted a hair sample supposedly taken from a vaulted lock of Elvis's hair auctioned years ago. The Presley estate consistently dismissed these claims, labeling the evidence as unreliable and the claims themselves as a marketing ploy. The trust, however, has a clear mandate: to preserve the integrity of the Presley name. To grant any alleged heir recognition, the claimant would need to present verifiable DNA, a chain of custody that satisfies the court, and a legitimate, documented connection to Elvis. Most of these claims evaporate before they reach a courtroom. The DNA used is often sourced from fan memorabilia, unverified personal effects, or third-party samples handled outside controlled conditions. Even when presented, the evidence falls short of the beyond reasonable doubt standard required for legal inheritance. Yet, the rumors persist. Some fans speculate that Elvis may have had secret relationships before and during his marriage to Priscilla, involving women who claim to have received hush money or confidential letters years after his rise to fame.
Even though he was a flawed human being, idol to millions, but a flawed human being nonetheless. But in her eyes, her dad was a god. And just to hear that she even felt that he might.
No public confirmation of such relationships exists from the Presley family or close confidants. Riley has never directly addressed any of these alleged siblings, and neither did Lisa Marie. Their silence fuels speculation, whether it is a legal strategy to avoid lending credence to false claims or an attempt to shield a private truth remains unanswered. In the broader context, Riley's role is not passive. At 34, she has inherited an empire of property rights, licensing deals, and a public expectation that stretches far beyond the physical walls of Graceland. She sits at the intersection of heritage and commerce, overseeing the trust's compliance with its legal obligations while also ensuring that the Presley brand retains its cultural relevance. Riley has talked openly about the digital preservation project she's spearheading, partnering with archivists to scan documents, books, and, most intriguingly, unlabeled tapes found in Elvis's upstairs study. One former estate employee, speaking anonymously in a fan forum, claimed that a reel-to-reel tape player, along with a stack of unlabeled tapes, was discovered in the study. While no official confirmation has been issued, the story aligns with known facts about Elvis's habit of recording himself at home to review his voice or share rough drafts with collaborators. Felton Jarvis, Elvis's former producer, once remarked that Presley recorded far more than RCA ever released. He described late-night tapes and piano sessions that were kept off the label's radar because Elvis didn't want anyone hearing them, either now or ever. Whether those recordings survived and remain boxed in a cabinet somewhere upstairs is the question no one seems able to answer definitively. The sealed rooms, therefore, serve as a silent archive of possible music, possible memoirs, and the weight of unspoken legacies. Riley's commitment to cataloging and digitizing Graceland's private storage runs parallel to her strategic decisions about what to make public and what to keep private. Archivists working with the estate report that certain storage areas, especially in Elvis's bedroom and study, remain uncatalogued. Documents, books, tapes, and other unreleased materials have yet to be digitized. This is not just a logistical issue, it's a cultural one. When other legacy musicians release vaults of material years after their deaths, fans relish the nostalgia. With Elvis, however, RCA and Sony have released curated box sets of alternate takes, but the personal archive at Graceland remains remarkably guarded. Riley has described these spaces as frozen in time, and while she has avoided giving definitive answers about the contents, she has repeatedly hinted that the house holds items never before seen by the public. Bootleggers have added another layer of intrigue to the narrative. Underground cassette and vinyl releases featuring so-called lost tracks have surfaced over the years. Some contain clear outtakes or alternate versions of known songs, while others claim to feature vocals that sound like Elvis. But analysis suggests they may be impersonators or studio manipulations. A 1990s bootleg, for example, claimed to include a haunting ballad called "This Is Goodbye," supposedly recorded just weeks before Elvis's death. That track was later debunked when audio experts matched the voice to a known impersonator. Despite such debunkings, other tapes continue to circulate, fueling the silent part of the story. Why is Elvis's personal archive so meticulously guarded when many other artists' vaults are routinely opened? Riley's digital preservation efforts speak to her vision of stewardship. While she has allowed selective releases through RCA and Sony, she has maintained that the personal vault at Graceland holds more than the public has ever seen. Her statement that the sealed rooms remain untouched was not a refusal to explore, but a pledge to protect a piece of history that cannot be commodified. She has spoken about feeling connected to the artifacts, describing an intuition that the house has a memory of its own. Archivists working with the estate corroborate this sentiment, noting that the contents of certain storage areas have not yet been digitally archived. Tapes, documents, books, remnants of a life lived in secrecy. In summary, the legacy of Elvis Presley at Graceland is a tapestry woven from legal disputes, rumors of hidden heirs, personal artifacts frozen in sealed rooms, and a modern digital approach to preservation. Riley Keough, in taking the helm, navigates these threads with a delicate balance of honoring the past and protecting a brand that remains an enduring symbol. Her stewardship, while not answering every question, offers a framework for how a living legacy can be both safeguarded and shared, ensuring that each breath of Elvis's history is kept alive, whether in dusty rooms, sealed tapes, or the resonant echo of a name that continues to sing beyond the walls of Graceland. The whispers that have lingered around the walls of the Presley estate, the soft creak of old doors, the faint echo of a voice long silenced, have finally been brought into the open by Riley Keough, the current steward of Graceland. Her decision to pull back the curtain on what has been hidden for decades has shifted the conversation from speculation to tangible evidence, inviting fans and historians alike to witness a chapter of Elvis's life that had remained sealed in dusty storage rooms. Riley's approach has been methodical and deliberate. She first began with the digital preservation project that had already garnered attention, a painstaking effort to locate, catalog, and digitize every tape, photograph, and document that could be found in the estate's vast collection. The project is not merely an archival exercise, it is an act of stewardship that balances the desire to honor the legacy with the need to protect its most intimate artifacts. The cataloging team, composed of archivists and historians, spends hours cross-referencing each item against known recordings, letters, and personal notes. This meticulous process ensures that no piece is mistakenly released and no narrative is distorted. During the early months of this work, Riley encountered the first true mystery item, a weathered cassette housed in a forgotten storage locker in the back of Elvis's bedroom. The cassette's label, faded to the point of illegibility, bore the cryptic inscription, "For the Future." When the tape was played in a controlled environment, a single track emerged, a raw, half-formed vocal line that bore an unmistakable resemblance to the king's own timbre. The recording, though incomplete, offered a glimpse of an unreleased song, a fragment of a creative process that had never been heard outside the walls of the house. Riley's public comment, "We must protect the integrity of this piece until we can fully understand its context," reaffirmed her careful stance. The revelation of this cassette triggered a flurry of reactions. Fans speculated about its significance, theorizing whether it could be a lost single, a rehearsal for an upcoming tour, or even a personal diary entry. Meanwhile, legal experts weighed in, noting that any release of material from the estate must comply with both copyright law and the directives outlined in Elvis's own will. The estate's attorneys reiterated that any posthumous release would require unanimous agreement from the legal guardians, and would be subject to royalty arrangements that reflected Elvis's enduring brand value. Beyond the legal complexities, Riley also had to confront the cultural legacy of the estate's secrecy. The house at Graceland has, for years, been described by insiders as a silent archive. The rooms, many of which have never been cataloged, contain an assortment of items, books, manuscripts, audio tapes that speak to a private life far removed from the stage lights. Riley has repeatedly highlighted how the house itself seems to hold memory, an almost palpable presence that resists commodification. She has used this metaphor to explain why certain rooms remain untouched, insisting that the personal artifacts within them cannot be reduced to marketing assets.